Robert's brow furrowed when he saw the mail's heading. What a strange name, Ultra New Poison Game. Robert's email ID receives a lot of strange emails. Like, in a bank in Namibia, there is an unclaimed $1.5 million. The managing director of that bank sent an email to Robert saying that he would arrange the transfer of the money in Robert's name. He will prepare all the necessary documents for this. Robert only needs to provide home address and bank account details. Then, after the money arrives in his Florida bank account, the manager will contact him and send the money, emails containing photographs, and other information about a beautiful foreign girl. She is looking for an old and mature man. There is no objection to the age. Roberta looks small, big bald head. The age has passed 52. The picture of the girl is very tempting. Immediately he remembered his wife Jane. He must think about Jane first. Apart from the strange marriage proposal, the email also comes with offers to buy various software at huge discounts. Again, various companies are also sending information about various ways to increase virility. Robert usually does not open these emails, so they are stored in bulk, rather than arriving in the inbox. If the title of a bulk mail looks interesting to Robert, he opens that mail only. Like this, Ultra New Poison Game. Robert has not responded to any such mail to date. But after seeing the mail of this poison game, it seemed that it should be opened and looked at a little shaking. But just then Jane came. So immediately Robert signed out from Gmail. Pushing the chair back, he stood up and shouted. Jane was standing at the bedroom door. The pink nightie-like material pressed on her is probably made of glass. Or, the pink color is the skin color of Jane. Robert wanted to see his wife through the eyes of an unknown man. Really? Her entire body is just mercurial curves. But Robert is not a stranger man. He was like that 3 years ago. So now looking at Jane, he no longer remembers any good feelings. But even so, Robert can't avoid the intoxicating pull of Jane. How can this 30-year-old girl still subdue 52-year-old Robert? That's magic. But from time to time, Robert wants to burst out in a fierce rebellion bubbling up. But that's it. By some magic, this magical girl takes hold of him. Now any porn star will also be ashamed of the way Jane started to caress him after calling her husband. Robert was in a daze and wondered how long he would be able to keep his balance and stand upright. Jane's love knows no bounds. That is the art that she knows. Even a dead man from a coffin would wake up in her magical lovemaking. But now her action looks like it is not the love of husband and wife. Jane is shooting in a blue film shooting. Jane threw him to the floor. Then, with a strong rush, she overpowered. Robert was like a vampire and absorbed it like blotting paper. A little later, Jane stood up, but Robert was unsteady like a stuffed doll. He lay on the floor with his arms and legs spread. He started panting, with big breaths. Sleeping contentedly was going almost, but he had to leave the office now. So Robert shook his head loudly, rolled his body, and crawled a little and slowly stood up with his hands and feet. Robert looked at Jane. True, her art has no answer for these things. This time Robert likes her very much. But the rest of the time is unbearable. Robert is a little thrifty. As a result, he earns with both hands but spends with his fingers. And Jane is like the drunken elephant in the lotus forest of that money-saving scheme. Spending with both hands is her first and last word. Although Robert disliked the matter, there was nothing he could do about it. Because, after getting addicted to Jane and marrying her, half ownership of all properties was written in her name. What happened? What do you think? Robert was surprised and said, Where? Nothing. Jane laughed, making the sound of water waves. She started changing her dress in front of Robert. Dressed in new clothes, she said, Listen, Jimmy will be here at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. Then we will go out for a while. It will be the night when we return. You have dinner and sleep. Roberta's heart burned. This Jimmy makes Jane even more unbearable. The boy has a dog-like name and a dog-like personality, always hovering around Jane, tongue sticking out and drooling. As Robert knows well, Jane doesn't want a divorce. She doesn't even want to marry Jimmy. Because the money of Robert, the comfort of AC flats, and the soft mattress of premium cars are all great choices of hers. In addition, she needs a pet, a young man who will always kiss her face and never become tired under the pressure of her intense pleasure. As a result, it is natural that Jane will be happy. But Robert? Always live or die in an unbearable tension. Before his eyes, rose Jimmy's hang-up set Robert's head on fire. But can't say anything on Jane's face, just mumbles inside. What if? Jimmy could be removed somehow? Then Jimmy's problem wouldn't exist anymore. Thinking about that day, Robert's heart felt better. Jesus, if. Even after Jane moved out of sight, Robert stood there like a dazed man. He was wondering what the secret was. Ultra new poison game in the mail. 6 people will eat poisoned food sitting at the same table, but 4 will die. 2 will live on in good health. How do you answer this question? The poisoned food will be shared by 3 people sitting together, but 2 will die. The 3rd will survive. How can you say? 3 people ate poisoned food. 1 died. 2 survived. Tell me, what magic is this possible? All these strangely intense questions in the email, and along with it, animation drawn in the style of cartoons. Everyone is sitting at the dining table sharing the food. Blue poison is being added to it. Then everyone eats to their heart's content. Some are spilling on the table, the rest are alive. Cartoon animation shows the same events over and over again like a movie. Under it, various slogans are written in the form of advertisements. And finally, a mobile number. Next to the number is written in red letters, "If you want to play the poison game, contact immediately." Robert read the email again and again. Then he took out his mobile phone from his pocket. Looking at the computer monitor, he pressed the mobile button and stored the number. Jane is not at home now. Maybe she and the dog must have gone for a walk somewhere. Or the 2 sit side by side in a liquor store with a glass in hand, muttering under their breath. Still, Robert left the computer table and came out of the room. After taking a good look around the flat, he was sure that Jane was not really in the flat. Then he called the phone number of the Ultra New Poison Game. "Good morning. Ultra New Poison Game. May I help you?" A girl spoke in a sweet voice. Robert scratched his head twice. Then he said in a hoarse voice, "I want to know some details about the new poison game." There was no difficulty in conversation. Robert wrote down their address. He said that he will contact their office tomorrow. The girl smiled and said, "I welcome you to our game land, sir." There was a pounding sound inside Robert's chest. Have you ever wondered if it's just a game or something more? Thinking about this, Robert reached the address of the poison game the next day and was disappointed to see their shop or office. A 3-storied house in a dark alley somehow stands straight, plastered with peeling salt. The appearance is like a haunted house. When a strong storm comes and the structure will collapse, Robert thought. A small door on the first floor of the house. A blurred signboard pined. On top is faint enough to read, "Charity Hospital. Expert in Oriental Medicine." The address of the shop is written below the last line. The address has been clarified. The writing on the board is unmistakably written with painted new colors with raw hands. A narrow passage runs along the side of the cupboard on the right. The face of the path is covered with a black curtain. Robert was thinking to enter the shop or not. As is the appearance, so is the inside. Robert looked around the room. Most of the blank walls of the room are covered with pictures. An oversized fan word on the ceiling. Robert did not see anyone in the house. Brows furrowed. So, will him leave? But the address is exactly right. At last, he knocked on the counter and called out at the same time, "Is anyone there?" A gaunt-looking old man removed the black curtain and came to the counter with a cheeky smile. The color is fair. Eyeglasses with thick lenses. The hair on the head is white, but the mustache is a mixture of black and white. The old man was wearing a dirty collared full-sleeved shirt, a pair of khaki pants with similar dirt on the legs. He took the hair of the right cheek once. "You have a game in my email. I mean, the ultra new poison game. One of those." "I saw the ad." Robert hesitated and stopped. The old man's bright eyes pierced Robert directly. He smiled a little and said, Yes, say. "I mean, I came to inquire about that poison game. That's animation. I found it so interesting." "So?" The old man surveyed Roberta. He laughed with a little sound. Then he said, Come in." He lifted a branch on one side of the counter and beckoned the old man, Robert, to come in. A perfume-type smell was emanating from the old man's clothes. The smell got stronger as he entered the other side of the counter. Roberta's curiosity was increasing. Email advertising in a modern way. The sweet voice of the modern young woman calmed down by calling the mobile number. However, coming to the original place, this old-fashioned, dilapidated shophouse is like a shaky shopkeeper. Is it a complete joke? The old man removed the curtain and entered the inner room. Back to back, Robert too. As soon as he entered, Robert's nose was hit by a rush of strange smell. He felt that he had come to a chemical factory, because the house is filled with lots of bottles. Some of them are white powder, some are colored liquids, and some are small or large tablets. Apart from this, a small table in one corner of the room with dried plant roots. There are 3 chairs on both sides of it. Something on the table: papers, notebooks, 3 ballpoint pens, and an old model telephone. The old man sat down on a chair. The one on the other side of the table gasped a little, then he pointed to the chair and said. Robert sat and looked around. Now tell me, sir, what I can do for you. That's what I said, about that poison game. The old man looked closely at Robert. Then he slowly said, actually one of those animation game CDs we sell. The price is 230 rupees. You can play by loading the game on the computer. I mean, to pass the time. It has so many options, so many puzzles, so many points. You can enjoy it. Robert's face showed annoyance and disappointment. Seeing that, the old man smiled. He raised his eyebrows and looked directly into Robert's eyes. He said, I understand. You are not happy. Robert pointed to the vials and bottles of chemicals. What are they? For that game? Or? You got it right. The old man shook his head up and down. These are for the real poison game. Suddenly he sat upright. He said in a cold voice, Tell me, who is giving you trouble? Who do you want to minus? Robert was a little embarrassed by such a direct question. He sat shaking in the chair. He looked around. The old man smiled and said, Secrecy is my goodwill. I meet clients' needs, in return get paid. That's it. Robert's breath was getting choked by the smell of chemicals. Robert was sweating profusely even though a small fan was spinning above his head. I mean, do you want to remove your wife from your life? Robert was shocked by the old man's question. His body trembled. The old man can read the mind. The shopkeeper grinned. There's nothing to be surprised about. Husband-wife cases come to me more. Either the husband wants to move the wife, or the wife wants to move the husband. Without giving the old man a chance to finish, Robert said, Yes. The old man stuck his tongue out and made a sad sound. How do all marriages become bitter after a soft voice? Then the mind wants liberation. But the wife reasoned, Where can I get rid of her for a while? Smiled the old man. And that's why I serve clients like you. Now let's get to the real point dash. He rubbed his hands. The old man leaned towards Robert. I'll tell you now about that ultra-new poison. My father's discovery. My father was once a famous herbal doctor in his time. The lame people would fall into the trap of intoxication after drinking the syrup made by my father. My father always did thousands of experiments with extracts and chemicals from plants. So while doing that, one day, about 72 years ago, he discovered this amazing poison. No one knows his chemical formula now, except me. Robert asked in surprise, Amazing poison? The old man laughed at this question. He said, Amazing means a very special type of infallible poison. Let's say you mix this poison in the food and yours the wife ate together. It is guaranteed that your wife will die. But you, if you get sick from eating poison food, will survive. Meaning that even if you spend 2 to 4 days in a nursing home, you will survive. Then the police won't suspect you at all, since you ate the same poison food, but you luckily survived. Then liberation and the beginning of a new life of mind. In short, there is no limit to joy. What do you say? Roberta was listening to the old man as if spellbound. Are these fairy tales or reality? Someone was pounding a hammer inside his chest and greedy saliva was pouring out. But where the gentleman's speech does not seem to be a bit awkward. 2 people eat poison food, but how can one survive? The old man has not revealed his secret yet. When he asked that, he slapped the table and laughed. He said, That is the real mystery. That's why I have so much fame. Now listen carefully to the trick. The old man let out a big yawn. He played the drum several times with 2 fingers in front of the yawning face. Then, an antidote to that poison, that is, an antidote father managed to make. It is also a mild poison. Before eating the poison food, exactly 3 hours before, the antidote must be taken. Then you are completely protected. Then eat poison food too. Your heart's content, no problem. But yes. The old man scratched his head. He put his hand on his jaw. He said, But yes, it will be a little difficult. You will get sick from poison food, end up in a nursing home, and struggle a bit with life. But in the end, death won't win. You will. And you understand, there will be no question of doubting you. The old man finished his speech by slapping the table. Smile of satisfaction, because he was able to explain the matter to the client properly. Robert was also very happy. There is no loophole in this plan. But one small question remains: poison has no smell. If after mixing with food, is there a strong smell? Asking that question, the old man smiled and said, "No problem. Meat. Meat broth. Does your wife like to eat meat? Choice meats. She is completely carnivorous. Minced meat is here. Hot favorite. Excellent. Pour the whole liquid. Into the business." Robert furrowed his brow and thought for a while. He was checking whether there was any risk factor or not. He remembered Jane's face. He saw in his imagination that beautiful face of Jane turn blue in the blink of an eye. He decided in his mind, there is no point in going back now. So he looked directly into the old man's eyes and asked, "How much?" $10,000. 10,000s. Robert was shocked to hear the price of Ultra's new poison. "Yes, sir, 10,000. Laughed the old man. "If the price seems high, you'd rather use a knife, get the job done. It will be done in 20 rupees. And if a domestic uses a blunt instrument, it will be a complete bargain." With a little hair, he added, "The price of your problem is 1 million. Robert loves saving money more than spending it. Jane's lavish. Spending burns Robert's inside out. So, hearing the price of poison the old man's face was shocked. But there is no other way. One consolation, however, is that after spending these billions, he will be freed from Jane's reckless spending spree forever. Robert nodded and said, "Oh, okay. Agreed. 10,000. You are intelligent." "Thank you, Dash," said the old man with a smile. "This time your task is to give an advance of $5,000. Then come the next day evening with the remaining 5. Yeah, I mean take the medicine vial. After paying $10,000, the day after tomorrow, if the by chance medicine does not work, then..." Robert was very upset. If the case becomes twisted, who will complain in the name of? And to whom to do? If this old man cheats, then, well, 5,000 the day after tomorrow. After that, if the work goes improperly, the remaining 5? That's what Robert said to the old man. The old man smiled and said, "Perhaps, but there is one condition. The next day you will have to bring identity proof and address proof, that is, voter card and latest electric bill or telephone bill. If not, what if you don't pay any more when Ultra New Poison is done? Then who will I follow for money? If you agree, then give $5,000 dash dot." The expression of uneasiness on Robert's face when he spoke about the address proof did not escape the old man's notice. He cleared his voice and said, "Don't worry. I have already said that secrecy is our goodwill. If the trust of the clients is gone, my business will go down in 2 days. So, tomorrow evening by 7, come safely with identity proof and address proof, with the rest of $5,000. He left the chair and stood up. "Now that's 5,000 today." Robert silently complied with the terms. The old man opened a notebook, picked up the small letters and said, "Then this is the word." Robert looked at the small vial with a blue labeled poison. Indeed, such a magical poison, a mild poison antidote. Antidote, the only claim is to get rid of the real poison. This has to take 3 hours after eating. By 10 o'clock at night, he and Jane will sit down to eat. Minced meat cooked with salad. Mixed into the meat will be the deadly poison of red label dill. Even a drop of its smell will be felt no one, because the old shopkeeper of that charity hospital said, if the poison is mixed with raw meat, it will not have any taste or smell. Besides, most nights Jane returns slightly intoxicated. So Jane's story ends after eating meat, etc. A new story begins. Thinking about these things, Robert opened the bottle with a blue label. Leaning his head back, he let out a big sigh and calmly poured the dewy clear liquid down his throat. Robert's throat started to swell. Whimpering in pain, he reached for the water bottle on the dining table. But he could not hold the bottle properly. The bottle fell on the table with the shock of his hand. The table was washed away. Robert's hands and feet were trembling. Breathing was unbearable. His body suddenly fell on the floor. In that situation, he put his hand in his pocket and tried to take out the mobile phone. He could not. His story ended. Robert's last thought before he died was that the red and blue labels of the 2 dewdrops were mistakenly turned over. Jane returned in the night and saw Roberta's dead body. Immediately, she pressed the button on the mobile phone and dialed a number. "Hello, Charity Hospital?" "Yes, say. I am wife of Robert Baker. The work is done." "Are you happy, madam?" "Of course. Client's satisfaction is our motto. Now, please pay our remaining payment. Your husband gave us half of the money. Don't worry. You'll get the rest money tomorrow." Thank you, ma'am. After talking on the phone, the old man was wondering what strange profession he was involved in. Those who want to be killed come to his shop of their own free will, pays in advance to be murdered. Of course, some even pay in full. Then he killed himself. And the number of suicides in the police account has increased by 1. Yeah, if only the murdered people knew that real clients never came to his shop. They did the work over the phone and sent the victim to his shop to dig his own grave.